Welcome back to the One Question Leadership Podcast. I'm Glenn Caruso, head football coach at the University of St. Thomas, and so happy you tuned in. You know, quite often we get so caught up in the daily grind of work or coaching or recruiting that we don't often take time to reflect. I would encourage everybody to take just a few minutes each day to try and see the bigger picture, to stop and realize that in the end, we're going to be judged on what we choose to believe, who we choose to love, and what we decide to leave behind in the hearts and minds of not just our players, not just our coworkers, but also our children. And remember, if we're doing it right, we're coaching football for life.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 1Q Leadership. Our guest is Coach Ralph Isernia. Coach Isernia is the head football coach at Rensselaer Polytech Institute, or RPI. Greetings, Coach. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Ty, thanks for having me. Really enjoy listening to your podcast. Great to be here.
I appreciate you here, and I'm glad you listened to it, Coach. Now, this is your 8th year as a head coach at RPI, and we were talking offline about, how do you count it if you didn't play a season? Is this your 8th season? Will this be your 7th season, right? So it's interesting right now in terms of players and coaches when you talk about how long you've been in the game, right?
Absolutely. I think, I guess there's two different categories. You have seasons that you coached and, also, ones that you've worked at an institution, I guess. But, we're just hoping to get back to playing football as quickly as possible.
Now, you spent time as assistant coach at Ferrum College, University of Charleston, Bucknell, among other places, with an overall 31 years in the football coaching profession. So you have a wealth of experience. And in a recent article over with the American Football Coaches Association, you emphasize the need to develop and maintain culture when you're leading an organization. You're the head football coach of a team. You're the athletics director in the athletics department. You're the president of an institution, leading a corporation, business, whatever it is. If you could break down culture to one sentence, what would you say?
I think quite simply, a culture is the way of life of a group. So whatever that group is, if it's a team, it's a family, it's an organization, it's the way you do things. So that encompasses your beliefs, your behaviors, morals, your laws, your goals. So it basically drives your organization. Now I remember back from my days in school, I don't know if they teach Latin anymore, but I know the root comes from basically means tend to the earth. Okay, and grow. So I think that's a great way to look at it. And it's the word cultivate. So it's learned, it's shared, it's symbolic, it's integrated, it's dynamic. So it's the way you do things. It's the way you do things, and I think that's what's going to drive your organization.
All right, you talk about the one sentence, the way of life for your group. And basically, the root of the word is cultivate, right? Tend to your family. This is how we do things here kind of situation. It's interesting.
That's right. And, and why it's important to define it, because it's the bedrock on which your family, your team, your organization is built, right? So, if we build something on sand, it'll quickly erode away. But if we build on bedrock, that's going to stand the test of time. So those are the principles that drive your group. And for us, we talk about our MVP process, right? Our mission, our vision, our principles. And our mission, hey, that's who we are. Our vision, that's how we get there. And then our principles, what we're all about. And those things, those are taught to, not only the coaches and also to our players, but everyone that is part of our organization, our strength coaches, our athletic trainers, so everyone knows, what we're all about.
So thinking about culture, the way we do things, the way we live, the way we treat ourselves, however somebody wants to couch that sentence, right? Whatever variety of variation of the same thing. You've been a head coach for 7 years, of course, in the profession for 31 years, means that 23 or 22 of those years, you were an assistant coach. I wonder how long did it take you to understand that there is the value of culture when leading an organization? I mean, I guess you've had to do it in a room when you're a position coach. You had to do it as a coordinator when you're running this one side of the ball. But it's not something that everybody understands right away as a player or even as an assistant coach, culture is something that you learn the value of it over time. So talk to me about how long it took you to understand the value of that in the 31 years.
No, that's a great question. I think when we're growing up in the profession and we're young coaches and we just start doing things, you try to get your hands on information, try to get your hands on books and articles and listen to podcasts and interviews and stuff like that. And you kind of file everything away in what you call when I become the head coach file, right? So you accumulate all these different perspectives. And, as a young coach, you're just trying to soak it all in. And I remember as a young coach that, I thought it was all about biology. And I come to find out it's really about chemistry. We think about biology. Hey, we got to get that 6'4" quarterback who can throw the ball 70 yards downfield. That's going to be the difference maker. That's going to be the magic bullet that helps you win and put you over the top. Well, certainly that talent, that's going to help you. But how does that mesh with the other people on the team? And, it's about that chemistry, about putting those things together and, also having a basis for everything. Hey, what are you going to stand for? What's important to you? And I think some coaches get into the coaching profession and they think that, hey, I'm going to make all these millions of dollars. I'm going to be that 1% of the 1% guys, the guys that are making those millions of dollars. But if you're doing that, then you're getting into the profession for the wrong reason. Certainly you want to have enough money to help with your family, help have a nice life, and be able to afford the things and send your kids to college and that sort of thing. But, you got to realize why you're in the profession and why you're doing what you're doing. And it's not just, coaching ball and having your kids, throw touchdown passes. And, I think the greatest compliment to any coach is when his players say, hey, he cared for me. He had a profound impact on my life, right? Those things. We coached probably because we had a coach that was a huge impact on our life. The greatest compliment to any player, hey, he was a good teammate. He could be an All-American, but he could be a jerk. All right. But if he was a good teammate, he was there for me. He was the one that picked me up. He was the one that believed in me. And then I think the greatest compliment of any organization is when the kids graduate and they leave your organization. Hey, I would do it all over again. Best decision I ever made, right? Wouldn't change a thing. And I think those are the things as we evolve and we have these mentors and we have all of this education at our fingertips, that you start to realize that, it's about those relationships, about the people. And that's why you get into coaching.
Yeah, it's interesting. I learned from my father when I was tried to walk on the football team at Michigan State and didn't make it and was going to transfer schools. And he told me that the reason for being at Michigan State was to get a degree, not to play football. And at that point, I learned the difference between my purpose for being at Michigan State and one of the goals I wanted to accomplish while I was there. And interestingly, when I was at the AFCA, Coach Robert Wimberly was speaking at the convention one year. And he talked about the difference between purpose and goals on why you're coaching football, right? A goal to make a whole bunch of money is a goal. But what is your purpose for actually being in the game, right? Your purpose for being in the game is probably to give back what was given to you by another football coach. So it's very interesting you bring that up. And that's actually very important when you talk about coaching football and leading young people, right? Whether it be men or women, kids, whatever it is, and leading people in general, it's very important. But young people specifically. When we talk about culture and leadership, a leader, and you've seen this and I've seen this, a leader can try to do everything right? Try to establish the culture, establish the values, define the purpose of the organization, the purpose of the family that they're a part of, but things still don't work out. A coach may not win enough games, or a leader in the organization may not work, or the corporation may not, make the bottom line, whatever it is. And I wonder, and I guess I'll say you're a philosophizing head coach, right? You do a lot of inner thought about things such as this, executive organizational leadership. Can you give us some thoughts on these type of situations when a leader tries to do everything right and it still doesn't work out?
I hate to, answer a question with a question, but why do we do what we do? Do we coach? Do we lead this organization so we can win games, so we can be, number one on the Fortune 500 list? to win championships, those sort of things. I think that's a byproduct. That's a result of a strong culture, a result of doing things like developing your roster, caring for your players, loving your teammates. That's the result of it. If you're going to judge yourself based purely on winning a championship, then you're going to be disappointed more times than not. Let's talk about the greatest coach, most successful coach in the history of college football, Nick Saban, right? I mean, I think hands down, I think a lot of people would say that 7 national championships, right? 7 national championships, and I believe he's been coaching for maybe 47, probably just under 50 years. So his national championship win percentage, which is about less than 15%, but he's the greatest of all time. So if we judge ourselves just basically on the wins and losses, then I think we're selling ourselves short. We're selling ourselves, selling our players short as well. And it's about those relationships that we're building. So why do we do it? I talk to our players. I talk to our coaches. Hey, what's your mission statement? Your mission statement, is it, hey, to win the national championship every year? Well, there's only one team that wins the national championship every year. So if that's how you're going to judge yourself, then you're going to be disappointed most of the time. So I talk about my personal mission statement. That's to use my energy and expertise to educate and empower others to fully optimize their lives. That's it. Everything I do, and everything I try to do for our players and our coaches goes towards that end. And once you define that, then everything else kind of falls in place. It becomes very easy for you to figure out, hey, what's your win? We talk about our win, WIN. What's important now? What's important right now? Right now for our guys, for our team, it's getting them back to campus, getting them in the weight room, getting them, getting them to go to class and be the best version of themselves. So you win with people, you win with caring, you win with giving, and it's not the hours you work, it's what you do with those hours. I think coaches, leaders, organizations, they'll sleep well at night knowing that they did everything they can to make their organization the best. Now, that may not result in wins, but I think if you're doing things the right way and you're doing it for the right reasons, you're going to probably win more than not.
Yeah, Coach, it ties back to what we just mentioned, right? Purpose and goals. And your internal purpose of being a coach, or what you just mentioned as your internal purpose, what drives you. You could leave and not have won a game, won 1 or 2 games a season for 20 years. Now, in terms of accomplishing the goals you wanted to accomplish as a coach, maybe that wouldn't have been what you do. But you have executed your purpose, and you may feel good about yourself. And the people that you built relationships over that time will probably love you for it. But then you have those external goals, that the institution may want you to win a number of games. They want you, at certain schools around the country, you can win 7, 8, 9, 10 games a year, and they still are unhappy with you and let you go. Those are those external goals that you got to deal with. But internally, the purpose, what you're saying, is very important. What drives you, and you should be driven by whatever you're driven by on the inside, which would keep you happy, not those wins and losses. That's an excellent point, Coach. So I read your article, and you recommend that coaches specifically, that the books they study, the lectures they listen to, the podcast they listen to, the things they read, the other people they talk to, not just be coaches. Coaches are notorious for talking to other coaches. Like I remember in meetings, I would say something, the coaches would hear me, but then one of my colleagues who was a football coach would say it, and then it would make sense to the coaches, right? So coaches are notorious for listening to other coaches. But your philosophy is that people should go way beyond just listening to coaches, way beyond just going to clinics, way beyond just going to conventions, and read and learn about and from people outside of the coaching profession when you talk about leadership and culture. Talk about some of those authors you listed and why those type of books and philosophies are important.
We talk about leaders and readers. Okay. So, we're always learning. We're always evolving. We're always trying to find a better way of doing things. If you want to be a great football coach, then go listen to a great football coach. If you want to run, the triple option, go visit, Army or Navy, right? go hunt out those experts. You want to challenge yourself. So when you challenge yourself, you learn. When you learn, you can grow. And if you're not growing, then I know what the other one is. So it's less about philosophy and it's more about self-actualization. It's becoming the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, and then give that to others. I think that, you read the coaching books, right? You read, Walsh and Belichick, Saban, Wooden, Hayes, Coach K, Pat Summitt, Phil Jackson, all of the great coaches. And what you find out is that, yes, the coaching, the X and O's, and that's what matters. But I think when you dive in a little bit deeper with those folks, to a person, they're going to talk about the relationships and how they build a team. And I think that's important, for coaches. So it's not just, hey, what you see on Saturdays, because that's a byproduct of having an outstanding organization and culture that you're building. And, the other books that I found very, very helpful, Maslow and Duckworth and Dweck, Erickson, Maxwell, Hardy, those guys that they go beyond it. They're teaching how to build an organizational structure and what's important. So, you got to keep evolving. And I think that's, one of the things that you read a book or you take a look at a lecture and you're figuring out, hey, how does this help my organization? Does this help my organization? How can I put this to action? Does this jive with what we're doing right now? Is this something that, hey, maybe I need to take a look at this down the road if we get to that place? You're constantly evolving, and as a head coach, you're continually trying to find ways to drive your organization. So we talk about leadership in our program, and we've got a quote that we've got up, and it's from John Quincy Adams. It said, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, to do more, and become more, then you're a leader." And quite simply, being a leader, if someone depends on you, then you're a leader. So if you're that, if you're that, 16-year-old kid that comes home from school and, you got your 10-year-old, brother and sister that they're depending on you to make dinner because your parents are working the night shift or something like that, hey, you're a leader. So when you find yourself in that position, lead. You've got to be that person, because no one else is going to do it for you.
Nobody else is going to do it, and you have to continuously be evolving as a person, as a leader, even as a follower. That's excellent information, Coach. I really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast. You talked about a lot. Your article was great, and to understand culture is very important for us in that college athletics space.
Well, thank you, Ty, and I appreciate you having me.
That was Coach Ralph Isernia. He's the head football coach at Rensselaer Polytech Institute, or RPI. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.